Then I saw them. Julian and her. Julian's face carried an expression I hadn't seen in years. Relaxed. Genuinely happy. She reached up, casual and familiar, to straighten Julian's collar. He didn't pull away. He leaned down and whispered something in her ear. She smiled. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him on the lips. Julian's hand rested on her waist. They stayed like that for a moment before separating. Like they'd done it 1,000 times before. The last shred of self-deception evaporated. All those late nights, working. All those times he'd been irritable with me. All of it finally made sense. My husband, Julian, didn't know I'd decided to transfer 15% of the company shares to him, a gift for our 10th anniversary. Until the day of my son's health checkup. The doctor smiled as he handed me the results. My husband and I, both type O. Our son? Type A. I looked at the boy sitting beside me, a miniature version of Julian. I didn't make a sound. I simply, calmly, did 2 things. First, I pulled a strand of hair from my son's head when he wasn't looking. Second, I tore up the share transfer agreement I'd prepared. I watched my son walk through the school gates before turning the car around. The DNA testing center was across town.
I need express results. How fast can you do it? Standard processing is 5 business days. Rush is today by 4 p.m. Triple the cost. Do it.
My hands trembled slightly as I handed over the sample. After they swabbed my cheek cells, I sat in the waiting area, staring at the clock on the wall. Every second felt like an hour. I pulled out my phone and made another call.
I need you to investigate my husband, Julian Robinson. I want to know everywhere he's been, especially in the last few months.
The private detective's voice was professional, detached.
Understood.
At 3:40 p.m., my phone buzzed. I opened the electronic report, skipped straight to the end. DNA analysis indicates a 0.0001% probability of biological relationship between Vivian Hart and Alex Robinson. Based on genetic marker analysis, evidence does not support Vivian Hart as the biological mother of Alex Robinson. Even though I'd prepared myself, seeing those words made my vision blur for a moment. I leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor. Not my child. I'd raised a child who wasn't mine for 9 years. So where was my child? I drove straight to St. Mary's Private Hospital, the same place where I'd given birth 9 years ago. Dr. Susie was still there. She'd been promoted to department head.
Dr. Susie, I need to access my delivery records and hospitalization files from 9 years ago.
Her smile froze for a moment.
That was so long ago. The files might already be lost.
It took some effort, but eventually someone from the records room brought over a folder. I flipped it open. The documentation was shockingly sparse. Only basic informations. Admission time, discharge time, delivery method, newborn weight, no detailed labor notes, no nurse handoff records, no pediatric examination reports.
Is this everything?
She looked apologetic.
That's all we have in the system. Paper records are usually kept for 10 years. You're right at the edge of that window.
What about the newborn footprints? The blood samples?
She shook her head.
Those should be in the newborn records, but we couldn't locate them.
It was obvious there was something wrong. An abnormally simple medical file. Missing newborn records. A child who wasn't mine, but looked exactly like my husband. The pieces were starting to form a picture I didn't want to see. My phone rang. It was Julian.
Where are you? I already picked up Alex.
I'd completely forgotten about school pickup time. At least I'd warned the teacher ahead of time.
I'm out running business. I'll be home soon.
I hung up. After dinner, I claimed a headache and retreated to the bedroom early. Through the closed door, I could hear Julian helping Alex with homework in the living room. Their voices drifting through the house.
Dad, is Mom upset?
Mom's just tired. Finish your homework and get to bed early.
I waited until they were both asleep. Then I started searching. The master bedroom, the living room, Alex's room. I went through everything, looking for... I didn't even know what. I found nothing. Finally, I turned to the computer in the study. The truth had to be in there. Footsteps in the hallway. I quickly closed out of the files I'd been opening. When Julian pushed the door open, I was straightening papers on the desk. He glanced at the computer screen. It had returned to the desktop. A photo of the three of us at the beach from 3 years ago.
Still up?
Just organizing some old documents.
I reached over and turned off the monitor. He stood there for a moment like he wanted to say something. In the end, he just nodded.
Get some rest.
I sat in the darkness, listening to his footsteps fade down the hall. That night, I didn't touch the computer again. I lay in bed, thoughts racing, unable to find sleep. The next morning, I still let Julian take Alex to school. He looked at me, picked up the car keys.
All right.
The moment they left, I went straight to the study. I turned on the computer and tried the password. Our wedding anniversary. Wrong. His birthday? Wrong. Alex's birthday. Still wrong. I tried the date we first met. His mother's birthday. The day the company was founded. All wrong. The system locked me out. Please try again in 15 minutes. I sat there, staring at the login screen. This computer we'd bought together, now locked against me. That evening, Julian came home from work. He was barely through the door when he said,
I'm going to Italy tomorrow. Business trip. Not sure how long I'll be gone.
I came out of the kitchen carrying a dish.
That's sudden. Who are you going with?
He set his briefcase on the table and turned to look at me.
It was a last-minute arrangement. Vivian, can you not do this?
I stared at him, confused. It was just a casual question. Why was he reacting like this?
You question everything. You suspect everyone. I'm just going to work.
I turned back to serve the rice. My hands were shaking slightly.
I was just asking.
He said nothing more. Walked straight to the bedroom. Dinner was silent. Alex must have sensed something was off. For once, he didn't complain about the food. After his shower, Julian grabbed his coat from the sofa to hang it up. A receipt slipped from the pocket and fell near my feet. After he left the room, I picked it up. A perfume purchase. Expensive. Bought yesterday afternoon. A brand name I didn't recognize. But I knew it wasn't for me. I thought about our marriage. 10 years. Julian hadn't bought me a gift in all that time. Not since our first anniversary. A scarf. I still had it somewhere. After that, nothing. No birthday gifts. No anniversary gifts. No just because gifts. I told myself he wasn't romantic. He showed love in other ways. He was practical and focused on providing, on his career. I'd made excuses for him. But now, holding this receipt, I understood. He wasn't unromantic. He wasn't too busy. He wasn't too practical. His romance just wasn't for me. It was for someone else. Someone who wore expensive French perfume. I wrote down the information from the receipt. The next morning, after Julian left for the airport, I called the boutique.
I need to verify a purchase. A receipt from yesterday afternoon.
One moment. Yes, I have it here. The buyer was Chloe Williams.
Chloe Williams.
I knew that name. Julian's secretary, hired 6 months ago. Early 30s? Divorced? I drove to the airport. I didn't know what I was hoping to confirm. Maybe the perfume was for a client. Maybe I was overthinking this. I waited outside the International Departures Hall for half an hour. Then I saw them. Julian and her. Chloe wore a beige trench coat, pulling a small suitcase behind her. She walked beside Julian, laughing at something he'd said. Julian's face carried an expression I hadn't seen in years, relaxed, genuinely happy. At the security checkpoint, Chloe stopped. She reached up casual and familiar, to straighten Julian's collar. He didn't pull away. He leaned down and whispered something in her ear. She smiled. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him on the lips. Julian's hand rested on her waist. They stayed like that for a moment before separating. Like they'd done it 1,000 times before. The last shred of self-deception evaporated. All those late nights, working. All those times he'd been irritable with me. All of it finally made sense. I watched their intimate silhouette disappear through security. A new thought crystallized in my mind. That child who wasn't mine. And this woman. Could they be connected? On the drive back, I called the private detective I'd hired.
I need you to look into someone else. Chloe Williams. I want to know everything about her. Especially whether she has any children.
The detective worked fast. By the next afternoon, I had the report. Chloe Williams, 32 years old, divorced 5 years ago, 1 son, 9 years old, name, Alan, attending a public school in the West End. The date jumped out at me.
Chloe's son was only 1 week older than Alex.
For the first time in 10 years, I felt my blood run hot. I sat on the sofa, holding the detective's report. Then, a thought struck me. I ran to study. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then, slowly, I typed in Chloe's birth date. The desktop opened. There was only one folder, named Work Backup.